Here, I'll show you. I'll talk a little bit over kind of what this year was like, show you what we've done. Lately, if you've been watching, you just see a lot of livestock. That's all we've been busy with. Obviously, there's not a lot of hay to make when there's snow on the ground, but that's, if you're new to the channel, you know, primarily what we do is just hay and straw, and lately we've been getting into sheep. So these are our hair sheep, these 12 Katahdin ewes, and they'll be at the tail end of the video, some clips of them when we brought them home, and we've had the goats, and we're just kind of continuing to grow that flock or that herd, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, thanks for watching, and hope to see you in some future videos. We're gonna have a lot coming up this summer, and probably once we get through lambing here, we'll do some more videos on that. Well, 2025 started out with kidding. We have these Savannah Boar crosses here. I think there's more Savannah in them than anything. We had, I believe, 12 kids, 6 bucks, 6 does, raising the does out for replacements. So those are growing out pretty nicely right now. Should be ready to breed soon. And then this winter we also bought this New Holland BC 5070, and we bought some big square bales to rebale to test it out, make sure that worked, and also to make some money big square baling. Here's a picture of us on our first property we ever bought for his farm. We're fixing some tile blowouts here, and at that time we had no access to the property other than walking a half-mile through the woods and back to those and digging them out by hand. Some of these videos here now are putting the crossover in. So this is some of the reasons we bought the property, is nobody wanted it because you had to install this crossover on the ditch and gain access through the woods. So we had so many problems, and we'll do a whole nother video on some of those issues we had buying the farm, because that's a whole nother story in and of itself. But we had to create a lane, put a crossover in. It was a very busy, and very wet spring. So here we are cutting down some trees and getting an access lane put in. Here's kind of the start of some of that. So we backed in, we used a dump trailer to haul in over 500 tons of stone. And at this time we were hauling manure, and there's a whole story to how that was a whole mess to even get the spreader back there, just how muddy and everything was. We were able to get all our manure hauled before we worked the ground up and got it ready to plant. But we did eventually get it all planted, which it's just such a miserably wet spring. We didn't get that field planted. I got it right here. We didn't get that field planted until the end of May. I think it's May 28th we finally got things planted. But there's our completed crossover. Before we planted it, there was a couple just patches of thistle here and there, so we were actually spraying my dad's four-wheeler to get some of that cleaned up. And here we are mowing down some rye. This is the first hay we mowed of the year, May 26th. This is where we started everything. None of our perennial hay crops were dry enough to get into, and this farmer wanted this rye baled off so he could plant into a clean field. So kind of a win-win for both of us. And that takes us from 26th of mowing the rye to the 28th of planting hay. Like I said, everything's just so far late with how wet this spring was. We didn't get that rye baled until May 31st. So it's almost June, and we have yet to start any first cutting yet at all. I mean, this is kind of a first cut, but this is not a perennial hay crop, so I don't necessarily count it. But it did. This rye didn't bale up as nice as I wanted. It looks more like straw than anything, but at least we tried it. I'm always willing to try something new. But man, everything just got pushed back so late this spring with how wet it was. We did have a pretty decent hay year with all things considered, but this year started wet, finished dry. So quality kind of suffered early on because maturities got away from us, and then late season we just didn't get the yield. So we were fighting a lot of problems. But we did get started with our main first cutting, mowing that. This would have been May 29th here, mowing our first bit of first cutting down. Actually, this video isn't a May 29th one, but this would be later on, some later first cut. And we bought a large square baler June 30th, so normally we'd be basically done baling first cut by then, but no, here we're still in the heat of first cutting. We bought a big square baler, found the right deal on one for just over 16 grand, and kind of the rest of history. We figured out a few things with it, learned a lot. Really glad I bought that. And then this is first cutting here, and another field, just beautiful big windrows. We used the big square baler for the first time in this field, had our fair share of issues. This is that field you just saw, and getting that baled up, we did big squares, small squares, and round bales on this 25-acre field. We put up quite a bit of hay off of that. Overall, this entire year, we put up less hay this year than we did last year in terms of small squares. We did just over 8,800 small squares this year. I think last year was like 8,900. So we're within 100 bales of last year's small square bale production. I think we outperformed last year's round bales. We did just over 1,112 round bales of hay, 593 round bales of hay. With straw is over 1,000. On large squares, we did just over
or right at 292 large squares of hay. So we're not anything by too big of producers, but next year we're going to have a whole lot more to bale, so we'll definitely be justifying and really utilizing that large square baler going into next hay season. So really excited for that. But this year we just didn't get to utilize things quite as well as we wanted to. Just like I said, first cut was really late, and later cuttings were almost non-existent. So we just really lost out on a lot of opportunities because the weather really hurt us. With that being said, though, we have been as busy as we've ever been was this season, despite the challenges we had. You would normally think losing a few cuttings, things would slow down a little bit, but that definitely wasn't the case with buying the property and getting access to it. This is the first clover we made of the year, main crop clover. We had some stuff we tried to pull off before corn that didn't dry down and we baled wet. That really wasn't fun, but this stuff was some beautiful clover we baled up. Went really well for us, and this actually was July 5th we were baling this clover, actually. Yeah, so that's, I think, when we were baling this clover was July 5th, if I have my records right here, and finished up the last of first cutting with this clover field on July 5th. And coincidentally, I think the day after or day before, I forget how it all played out, we were in this field doing second cutting alfalfa within like a day or two of that first cutting clover. So we had overlap of first and second cut, which isn't necessarily uncommon for really late first cutting, but man, this year just it felt like it dragged out. I know there's plenty of guys making a lot of first cut well into the middle of July, so really frustrating year for everyone. I felt like we came short on a lot of things that we were hoping to get further ahead on, but I guess we weren't really unique in the grand scheme of things with just so many guys so far behind. This was a really nice field here. Just some beautiful second cutting alfalfa we're mowing down, 9 acres there. We had another 12-acre field we mowed at the same time, so we had the 20-some acres of this alfalfa down the same time as our first cutting clover. And this clip here would be our new seeding. Stuff's looking really good. This probably was taken around mid-July. Don't worry if you think this was a nice new seeding here. You'd be wrong, because it was full of foxtail when we finally made it. We baled that, I think it was August 7th and 9th. It took us a couple days to get it baled because we found dry spots, wet spots, so we baled what was dry on the north field. It took us a couple days to get the south field dry. I had to rake it like 3 times. But it looked really nice in that video, but it was not near that nice when we finally got around to baling it. It was so weedy, which you'd expect out of first cut, but I was hoping to be slightly better. It was almost all foxtail and ragwood we baled, but we have a really nice clean stand right now on that field. As most new seedings go, the first cutting or two is always kind of junk, and then it cleans up really nice after that, which is the case of some other new seedings we've done. But yeah, so we were just fighting so many problems here. Did put up a lot of beautiful hay. Here's raking that clover. This is still first cutting. We're got some video on here. We were raking this stuff single, and it was big. I mean, these videos don't do justice to just how massive these windrows were. There's no way I was going to want to double up any of these, because even doubled up, my round baler, which normally can chew through anything, was getting choked up, and it was a lot for that to take. I'm trying to think of how many. We got a lot of hay off of this field. I think it was like almost 3 tons or 4 tons the acre. I'm trying to remember. That might be way too high, but it was a lot of hay. Like I said, these videos don't do justice to just how big these windrows were. You can just see how fast the bales are coming out the back of this baler. We're not driving very fast, and I think we're hitting close to that 8 to 9 second interval between bales, which means you're pumping out some pretty high tons. If you're going slow, that is. I guess if you're driving really fast and doing that, you can still hit those baler intervals, I guess, even on lower yield stuff. But that's not the case in this field. There was a lot of hay. We did get a shot of all 3 balers together, because that was kind of a cool opportunity. So here's the family in front of all 3 balers. It was a cool little photo op we got to do. I'm just really proud of how far we've come. So we're like, oh, let's pull over and get some pictures. So this would be the last hay leaving that first cut clover field. That kind of takes us into straw, which we started straw around mid-July. So a little later than normal. Obviously, as you can see, we had some issues with the big square baler. Like I said, big learning curve, new piece of equipment that wasn't set right. Ended up just being the brake needed adjusted on the pre-compression chamber. So that helped us firm the bales up a lot more. So we were able to make tighter slabs in the pre-compression chamber, and then we tightened up the compression on the chamber itself. I think here we didn't have the chamber pressure set high enough, and then also we weren't sending fully formed slabs into the chamber. So a couple of really just bad things that coupled together to create that mess that we had there. All in all, straw went pretty good. Didn't drag on too bad. Like some years, we did put up over 211 large squares of straw, 519 round bales of straw. So A lot of straw we put up. We did not small square bale any straw because we had a fair amount of carryover, and the time with how far hay was getting pushed back, I did not want to deal with small squares and slow down and switch to that and everything. Let's just get the acres we had committed, baled off and done, and we'll worry about jockeying small squares of straw when it comes to it, which we just started doing that this month, or in December actually of 2025. We did buy and resell some straw, and we're going to continue to do that until new straw comes on, which isn't the end of the world. I would have loved to have some of my own, but you got to follow where the margins are, and straw isn't always the highest margin thing. But yeah, so we got our new seeding baled off in August, and I think this video here is taken in our one field up north that we baled third cutting off September 2nd. And I'll discuss somewhere more of that too, kind of how we lost so much tonnage. But that would be, I think, second cut in that rake video here. And here we are going back to our field. This is baling the new seeding right here. You can see these windrows are pretty big and yellow. We lost a lot of color. It took so long to dry that stuff down. Because it basically, once it finally turned dry, it turned to a drought, but yet we still had a lot of ground moisture, I think, residual from spring. So you'd rake it and everything would be good and dry, but the bottom of the windrow would reabsorb the moisture. So you rake it again, and we had to rake it 3 times until we got a hay inverter finally this fall. I think we're going to use that a lot next year if we run into a similar situation. This would be, I'm assuming this video was probably taken late August, and this would be a second cut field. A field that I don't think they got more than the 2 cuttings on. I think they might have green chopped the third cutting maybe late in the year, but their first cut got pushed back so far. They had some equipment problems coupled with the really late spring and trying to get other crops planted. The hay kind of took a back burner to getting row crops planted. Luckily for us, we only do hay, so it's always main priority. But I get why other folks do it. I'm not trying to bash on any one operation. It's the right move. You can't plant corn in July and expect to have a crop. So they prioritize planting over hay. So this second cut got pulled off really late, and they kind of lost a cutting out of that. So there's our hogs. I guess really quick shot of that. We did end up buying hogs September 21st of the year, and I believe this is mowing the third cutting down in a one field way up north. And this was done almost an entire month later than our third cutting off of the other fields closer to home that we baled. So we did second cut off the fields close to home the first week of July. I think third cut came off first week of August, and it wasn't until September 2nd when we were doing third cut in the field up north. And the fields close to home that we baled a whole month earlier never even came back more than 6 inches of regrowth to finish out the entire year. We never made a fourth cut on them. But this field we baled September 2nd. We actually came back October 6th and made a fourth cutting. While it only did just shy of 10 bales an acre, we still got a fourth cutting off of this field, because this field being 18 miles north, there was a lot of rain events that completely missed everything around us and hit this field. I don't know if they maybe got an inch or two more rain that we never saw. We maybe got 2 inches of rain over the whole, probably after early July until nearly September, or well into September if I remember correctly. We maybe got at most 2 inches of rain over that 2.5 month period. It was dry, but that field that we got third and fourth off of up north, it did get a couple of those rains. We work so hard all year to try to get our cut schedule where we need to be, and that's usually early July getting second cut off so you can get 4 cuttings. Well, we did all of that right, and because of the drought, we never pulled a fourth, unfortunately. So I'm guessing this is that field that we got 4 cuttings on, and the only field we got 4 cuttings on this year. It made some beautiful fourth cut, but at less than 10 bales an acre, we're chasing every acre or every bale we can at this point, because we knew the quality was there, and we knew the markets should be there. So we're baling low yield stuff and raking 4 to 6 13-foot wide swaths together to make windrows big enough to bale, and it worked. And we end up buying the inverter for this. Like I said, same thing. You rake it, and the bottom of the windrow pulls that moisture out of the ground. So that kind of wraps up most of our hay season for the most part. Here are some of our chicks. We did a batch of a little over 100 broilers. They got butchered December 3rd, so really late batch, but I didn't want to overlap with hay season. And also the day we butchered those, we had a set of twin lambs born, and then also we had a sow farrow. So that was a really busy day, butchering over 100 chickens and dealing with newborns all while at that. So that kind of takes us into, I guess we kind of jumped around a little bit here because that video was of younger chicks, but this is oat hay we made really late in the year. This stuff was baled, I think this was almost November we were baling this. This was November we baled this oat hay up. It made some beautiful hay, but some of it probably wasn't quite dry. The sheep really did appreciate the hay that was left over in the chamber. We ended up feeding them this, and this is right before we brought them home. They got brought home right around Thanksgiving, and lambed early December. One started, the rest haven't gone yet. And this is us loading out that oat hay. Like I said, some of the bales turned out really nice. Some of them definitely didn't keep as well as I wanted. Luckily, we just stored them outside. Did end up buying a backhoe this year to try and start pulling stumps. I've maybe only gotten at most 2 days of running it, and not even 2 full days. Just haven't had time to get out there and do it. It doesn't start very well, so we have to pick and choose our warmer days to do it anyhow. But yeah, it's been a pretty fun year getting stuff put up. We did put up over 45 bales of oat hay, all in early November, so the hay season pushed really late. I don't know how that stuff even grew getting planted in, I think he planted that in August. But yeah, like I said, we butchered the chickens December 3rd, and on December 3rd, this litter of pigs and those 2 lambs were born. So we were, basically it's cold out, it's miserable. If you know anything about butchering, you're wet from hosing everything down, and it was just a miserable, nasty day to deal with all of it all at once. But here's some of the chickens. Things turned out really well. Some of them were as high as 8-pound carcasses. And then this sow decided to farrow outside. That's a whole other thing if you've seen some of those videos. But yeah, it's been a great year, and I hope you enjoyed watching.